Hello, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. This is part 4 of the Dating Again series. The topic is letting go of the codependent, narcissist, and borderline fairy tale. The Dating Again article and video series takes a different approach to dating after you've been in a bad relationship or series of bad relationships. Rather than focusing on how to spot red flags and other warning signs a potential partner is FUBAR, self-absorbed, immature, a gold digger, personality disordered, and or your garden variety nightmare biped train wreck, it focuses on you. Specifically, these articles and videos focus on why and how you entered into these relationships, why and how you tolerated being devalued, exploited, and taken for granted, and what you need to heal before you're attracted to healthier people. Part 1 explores why you've chosen such damaged partners. Part 2 explores possible unconscious motivators to maintain the old unhealthy pattern of relationships, or what we call secondary gains. Part 3 discusses why many codependents feel a lack of chemistry with emotionally healthier women and men. And this part identifies what you're likely to lose if you become healthier and choose healthier partners with whom to have intimate relationships and friendships, which in the field of psychology is referred to as secondary losses. Again, they're unconscious motivators that keep people stuck in unhealthy patterns of behavior. Okay, so giving up the fairy tale of the brave, loving, and loyal codependent who saves the narcissist or borderline from themselves. Why do I hate Disney Inc? So many reasons. Primarily, I hate Disney because they destroyed the original Brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. Disney is the biggest drug dealer in the propagation of princess culture. Get them while they're young. I swear, if one more little girl in an Elsa dress crashes into me with a mini shopping cart at Trader Joe's, to be fair, it's not the children's fault. It's their parents, but I digress. Fairy tales weren't intended to be the Disney-fied princess, prince hookup genre routinely served up for mass consumption. Fairy tales in their original form are symbolic allegories. Quoting Cambridge Library of Scientific Society here, a fairy tale is a story that takes truths that are hard for the oldest people to understand and shows them to us through the eyes of a child. You might call it a small story about a very big thing, end of quote. Fairy tales are often quite grim, pun intended, not the teapot, candlestick, song, and dance numbers that Disney likes to serve up. In the original form, Cinderella is about childhood bereavement. Her mother died and father is nowhere to be found. She's left grieving in the ashes in the care of an abusive stepmother. Her only friends are mice and birds, which represent the healing power of nature, because allegory. Snow White is about another girl whose mother has died. She's seen as a sexual rival by her stepmother who, consumed with narcissistic envy, tries to have her murdered. The Fisherman and His Wife is about a power-hungry, narcissistic woman incapable of being content with what she has, no matter how grand. If you're more familiar with Disney's unreasonable relationship expectation porn, you likely have some faulty beliefs about the magical powers of love modeled to you by your family of origin. For example, love can conquer all. No, it can't. Especially not characterological disorders, mental illness, pathological lying, and addiction, for instance. Or, and here's a very common one with my clients, if a very special prince kisses the beautiful but demonically possessed princess in just the right way, she'll become his perfect loving princess and happily ever after the end. Love can be healing if it is accepted when offered. It is not a miracle drug, however. Many clients have friends who love them and think they're wonderful. It's not as meaningful as getting the approval of a woman or man who's unlikely to give it to them, just like mom or dad didn't. Many clients have also confused their codependency, trauma bonding, and the highs and lows of abuse with love. Still doubt me? Okay. How many watching this have waited years or decades for a partner who's consistently been cruel, deceitful, selfish, unloving, immature, materialistic, lazy, irrational, and unempathetic to bibbidi-bobbidi-boo back into the woman or man who loved bombed you once upon a time? Unless you have a wand-wielding fairy godmother who's been stuck in traffic all these years, that magical transformation you've convinced yourself is possible simply isn't going to happen. Common never going to have a happily ever after fairy tales I see in my practice include: Nick in shining armor rescues the beautiful, helpless princess, Damselina von Distressing. After saying the magic words, "I do," Damselina becomes the needy control freak, waif-like professional victim who devours their children. There are no magic incantations to remetamorphose Damselina into the beautiful yet whiny, manipulative, and prone to emotional reasoning princess. Or, Jane is dazzled by the handsome prince Mario Testosterone. He sweeps her off her feet and onto a pedestal. After saying the magic words, "I do," Mario becomes a foot-stomping, angry, controlling troll who devours their children. There are no potions to magically retransform Mario into the handsome prince Jane thought she was marrying. And then Nick, no longer in shining armor, meets FEU, the strong, independent, employed, I don't need a man princess. She pays her own way most of the time and doesn't blow up his phone each time a light bulb needs changing. The opposite of Damselina. After saying the magic words, "I do," Effie still doesn't need a man for anything, except to financially support her because she stopped working. Effie becomes the angry, hostile dependent, cruel, nothing is good enough, queen-like witch who devours their children. There aren't any magic spells to re-enchant Effie to her previous illusion either. The enchantment of your family of origin issues and love bombing is what made Damselina, Mario, and Effie appear so very attractive and charming to you. As stated in part 3, healthier people would not find your narcissistic or borderline partner or ex as attractive as you did or do, or attractive at all for that matter, especially once the ex reveals the horror show lying under the beautiful mask of the false self. I can't think of a single grim fairy tale in which the monster, evil queen, or witch who hid their true identity to seduce the protagonist in the fairy tale is magically transformed into the loving, beautiful, and benevolent being that they pretended to be. There are fairy tales aplenty in which the frog, the peasant, the old hag, the farmer's daughter or son, characters of very humble origins, etc., turns out to be the hero, the princess, or the helpful fairy who grants wishes. How does that typically occur? When a character possessing virtue and humility shows them kindness. It also occurs when an unlikely hero or heroine displays ingenuity and bravery, even when afraid, or especially when afraid, and facing the monster. That's who wins the treasure in fairy tales. In reality, this is how you heal. No one is going to magically appear to save you or make the grief work you need to do unnecessary. And oftentimes, if you're codependent and come from a dysfunctional family, that grief work is going to be archaeological in nature. In other words, there are layers of it going back to mom or dad, and then with each unhealthy relationship stacked up on top of them. If you're honest, weren't all the exes supposed to have been the one who would love you and magically make the pain of the past disappear? Did any of these women or men do that for you? More than likely, they were all just different but similar versions of the old childhood pain. In order to become healthier, you'll have to release those old childhood fairy tales about monsters who can be magically transformed into loving parents or partners. This isn't simply a cost or a loss. Those cost and loss aren't strong enough words. I'm talking about grief work. Okay, now the cost of becoming healthier and having healthier relationships. Just as staying unhealthy has benefits, i.e., the secondary gains discussed in part 2 of this series, becoming healthier has costs or secondary losses. Quoting Dr. Will Friedman here, these are attitudes and behaviors people would need to give up or let go in order to create the realistic possibility of addressing and resolving their difficulties. They are avoided as disadvantages for making adaptive changes to remedy their physical, neurotic, and character disorders. End of quote. A common thread that often weaves through the disadvantages of becoming healthier, in my practice anyway, involves giving up old ways of being. Specifically, one's self-concept or identity, how one views others, and how one understands relationships and your role in them. This includes faulty beliefs about relationships and what love feels and looks like. For example, many people, not just my clients, have been taught, often by exploitative, abusive parents and partners, or taught originally by their parents and then reinforced by equally messed up partners, that love is unconditional. Unconditional love is for children and dogs. And okay, fine, cats if you're a cat person. Okay. And even with children, you unconditionally love a child. However, that doesn't mean that you let the child run amok and do whatever they want to do without consequences. Well, actually, there are some parents who do that, like the ones with the little girls in the Elsa costumes who jam into me at Trader Joe's with their little mini shopping carts. I'll let go of that. But you love the child, but you explain to the child why certain behaviors are unacceptable or dangerous, and that the behavior is bad, but not the child. Okay, back to my point. Okay, so in an adult love relationship, it's critical to have boundaries and behavior expectations. You can have boundaries and behavior expectations and still love someone. For instance, no abuse, no lying, no treachery, no cheating. Many narcissists, borderlines, and other chronically immature people think unconditional love means that you have to accept them unconditionally, 100%, just as they are, without complaint, but don't expect to get the same from them in return. Oh no, nothing you do is good enough after the love bombing stage ends. You'll need to change everything. But them, nada. Changing old beliefs and their corresponding behaviors is easier said than done. of course. That which is learned in childhood can be hard to unlearn in adulthood. However, it is possible, and if you want to be healthier and have healthier relationships, it must be done. It's painfully difficult for some codependents to let go of the dysfunctional fairy tale that a healthy, loving relationship can grow out of abuse, drama, chaos, and deception. It's what you desperately wanted to believe as a child. It's what you had to believe as a child, because the alternative, that the big people who are in charge are angry, out of control, drunk, self-absorbed, and don't really care about you and your needs, is too scary to contemplate as a kid. So kids convince themselves that if they are good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, patient enough, and accepting enough of the mistreatment, that the princess or prince who became the monster will turn back into the princess or prince once, the princess or prince realizes that they really are good enough. If you're codependent, you are probably feeling unloved, unsupported, unrecognized, unwanted, unaccepted by, and unimportant to your parents. And developing those magical beliefs about relationships and yourself, and this power to change horribly broken adults is how you got through that. Okay. And as a child, that's actually adaptive, even though it's completely bananas, but we're kids, so we tend to have magical thinking. As an adult, this is not reality-based thinking. Again, it's the magical thinking of a hurting child. It's highly self-destructive magical thinking when applied to narcissists, borderlines, psychopaths, and other immature, self-absorbed, and exploitative human beings. Magical thinking can imbue one with a false sense of hope and power, though, and in this respect, it's self-reinforcing. As is the memory of the love bombing and the good times. And what are the good times in an abusive relationship? They're the times when the abuse is absent, not fantastical or magical, not to be replicated with a healthier person. The good times are just the absence of abuse, conflict, drama, and chaos, which is what you can get a steady supply of with a healthier adult in a healthier relationship. Now let's discuss the costs of becoming well from Dr. Friedman's list that I observe most commonly in my practice. 1, people will want something from you that you may not be willing to give. This is usually the fear of allowing someone to see you as you really are. In other words, letting a potential partner see your authentic, vulnerable self. Many of the men and women I work with get a lot of juice from being the strong hero, the fixer, rescuer, or the people-pleasing savior or angel. In other words, the good husband or good boy, or the good wife or good girl. Thus, they continue to attract and be attracted to damsels or dudes in distress, drama, queens or kings, etc., with predictable results. If you were healthier, I hate Google. Sorry, calendar just took control of my screen. If you were healthier and whole, you wouldn't be looking to rescue or fix people into loving you. I'm going to repeat that, and not just because Google distracted me. This is important. If you were healthier and whole, you would not be looking to rescue or fix people into loving you. Even if that were to happen, which it won't, then what? If the thrill is in fixing someone, will they love you as you are once they no longer require fixing? Would you have been initially attracted to them if they were healthier? You try to fix partners because you couldn't fix your parents and as a result, felt unloved. Getting healthier means letting go of this, figuring out who you're meant to be, and giving that self, capital S, the love, attention, and compassion you didn't receive as a child. 2, people will misconstrue your values, intentions, commitments, attitudes, and actions by drawing erroneous conclusions. Becoming healthier will almost certainly be misconstrued by a dysfunctional, abusive, and/or disordered spouse. They usually view any attempts on your part to heal, grow, and improve as a threat to or loss of their control over you. The healthier you become, the less willing you'll be to tolerate an unhealthy partner. I'm going to repeat that, it's important too. The healthier you become, the less willing you'll be to tolerate an unhealthy partner. In which case, they're right to feel threatened. Except that someone who actually loves you supports you in being well. If your ex runs a smear campaign, engages in DARVO, i.e. falsely claims victimhood, DARVO stands for Deny and Reverse Victim Order. I wrote an article about it, I think back in 2011. You can find it on my website. I will do a video at some point on it. If the ex runs a smear campaign, engages in DARVO, friends and family may also misconstrue your efforts to get healthy. This is more likely to occur if you did not confide in anyone about the abuse while in the relationship. For example, some people with the seeds planted by the abusive ex may accuse you of having a midlife crisis, an affair, of being selfish, of abandoning the family, or of being ungodly. If a person is quick to believe the ex's smear campaign, it isn't a loss. It's good riddance. If they're that quick to judge you without having all the facts, see you later. To give up and release all your best excuses, this is number 3, to give up and release all your best excuses, cop-outs, lies, half-truths, misleading omissions, justifications, intellectualizations, and good reasons for life not adaptively functioning. Okay. Common rationalizations and lies clients tell themselves are that all women or all men are fill in the blank. All women are gold diggers, simply not true. All men are liars and cheats, simply not true. You may have dated most of the women or men you've had relationships with that may be true of them, but that's because you have issues that attract you to those types of persons. I know they pretend to be someone else during the love bombing, but that doesn't explain the months or years that you stayed with them after the fact, okay? The dysfunctional relationship isn't or wasn't that bad. It's another common rationalization. Their mother or father wasn't that bad. Or the best way to get over an old relationship is to start a new one. That's unhealthy because that means you're denying yourself or avoiding the healing work that you need to do by going through the grief process and understanding what has been happening to you and what has been happening in your relationships. Another common lie or rationalization is no one could resist love bombing. Yes, healthier people can. They find it overwhelming and creepy and desperate. Another common rationalization is if they just tried harder, been more patient and loving, etc., the relationship with a disordered ex could have worked. Another one is there was no way to have known what the ex was really like. Love bombing is a big red flag. You don't know why this keeps happening to you. You have bad luck in relationships, etc., etc. Look, unhealthy people, unhealthy codependents, and codependency is unhealthy. Choose other unhealthy relationship partners. Codependency and trauma bond relationships are unhealthy. 4, to recognize and give up unrealistic, irrational ideas and beliefs. This is about the necessity of giving up the old faulty beliefs, behaviors, and fairy tales that tolerating pain and abuse can magically fix another person. It means no longer believing that sacrificing yourself on the altar of someone's pathology is a measure of your love for them. It's a measure of your willingness to be abused by them. I'm going to repeat those last two sentences. It means no longer believing that sacrificing yourself on the altar of someone's pathology is a measure of your love for them. It's a measure of your willingness to be abused by them. 5, to give up and release significant anxieties, upsets, fears, frustrations, depression, and other unprocessed, somaticized, or behaviorally acted out emotions by learning and consistently practicing constructive ways to help process feelings through one's guts, body, mind, and spirit. That means no more avoiding your own issues. You have to focus on yourself. The most consistent fear I see in my clients is that they don't believe, because of their childhood experiences, that they can simply be who they are and be loved. They fear they aren't enough. They believe they're unlovable, that they lack worth and are somehow inadequate. That's how they were made to feel as children, and they've chosen adult relationship partners who repeat that. And this is also why many codependents are so susceptible to love bombing. It fills up your empty spaces. Confronting these fears about the self is the foundation of the healing work to be done. It is the cornerstone to becoming healthier. 6, to tolerate feeling awkward and uncomfortable with highly unfamiliar, healthy, successful attitudes and behavior. In other words, growing pains. As I tell my clients repeatedly, healthier people feel different than the dysfunctional and the disordered. Healthier relationships will begin less intensely and unfold and feel differently than dysfunctional relationships with the disordered do. This is a good thing. The highs won't be so high and the lows won't be so low. Conflicts and disagreements need not be a source of anxiety and fear or something to be avoided. You'll be allowed to have your own feelings, wants, and needs. In fact, with healthier partners, your wants and needs will be just as much of a priority. Scary, huh? 7, to recognize and give up dysfunctional coping strategies such as doubt, denial, avoidance, escape attempts, going unconscious, suppression, not remembering, and not caring. This is another significant part of healing and maturing. It's important to recognize the maladaptive defense mechanisms learned in childhood and later employed in your toxic adult relationships. Healthier people aren't going to tolerate them for long, even the really patient ones. As previously noted, the personality disordered expect that you accept them 100% as they are, abuse and all, while demanding that you change everything about yourself. An accepting, kind, and loving adult isn't going to reject you for being who you are because they want to be accepted for who they are too. And if neither of you can accept each other, then reasonable, rational people move along and find other partners who can. Okay. Echoing, which is telling someone what you think they want to hear, hiding and distancing will push healthier women and men away. So you're going to have to get a handle on that old stuff. 8, to accept and learn to tolerate the realistic idea that nearly nothing can prevent you from taking the next scary, risky step in creating and claiming your true self and taking your true power. No one else can fix or save you but you. There's nothing mystical or magical about it. It begins with self-care, learning to love and accept yourself, developing boundaries and self-respect. It also involves a willingness to step into the unknown, meaning you adopt different attitudes and beliefs and make different choices in combination with new corresponding behaviors. It means making calculated risks and being vulnerable enough to share who you truly are with another person and feel the transformative power of acceptance. As I often tell clients, you are sitting in a cage of your own making with the door wide open. 9, be willing to become tolerant and accepting of other people's choices that are unworkable and destructive without carrying them, rescuing them, or making their lives fundamentally your business. This is one of the most difficult aspects for codependents to let go of. Stop trying to fix others and start dealing with your issues. Think about it. How much of your life have you spent trying to fix someone in the hope that they'll then be able to love you? Please stop doing this to yourself. 10, learn and practice daily whatever verbal, assertive, limit-setting, emotional coping, and environmental management skills needed, and become firmly intolerant of irresponsible and or destructive attitudes and behaviors, abusive behavior, injustice collecting or grievance gathering, and all forms of harm to any living thing. Okay, to summarize what Friedman is saying there, boundaries. You need them, so get some. Not having any boundaries or having weak ones plays a large part in why you've had such unhealthy, one-sided relationships. Additionally, identify how much self-defeating, negative self-talk you engage in and flip it around. If you tell yourself you're an unlovable loser that no woman or man would want 30 plus times a day, is it any wonder you think and feel the way you do? This is actually a great thing to lose as you become healthier, by the way, is the negative self-talk. Letting go of those old codependent fairy tales probably won't be easy. They're the bedrock of what you grew up believing about yourself, others, love, and relationships. But let them go you must if you're determined to become healthier and have healthier relationships. The first step is showing yourself kindness, love, and compassion so you can recognize it when it's genuinely offered to you. Whether you realize it or not, you have the ingenuity and bravery to face your fears, inner demons, and unresolved grief of childhood and old relationship wounds. The coping mechanisms, albeit unhealthy ones, you developed in childhood served a purpose. They protected you from at least some of the toxicity of your family system. Now it's time to let those go and develop healthier beliefs, attitudes, and coping mechanisms. If you still want some magic, here's an incantation for you. I'm ending the relationship. I'm taking my life back. I want to heal. In taking responsibility for yourself and your choices, you're free to leave and deal with the issues that caused you to confuse such ugliness for love and beauty in the first place. Now, repeat after me. I'm ending the relationship. I'm taking my life back. I want to heal. And then you make it so. Again, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. Thanks for watching and have a good day.